CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe was at the Joe Biden event in Ottumwa, Iowa, and joins us now. Ed, I know you're there in the crowd right now. I want to ask you, one of the criticisms the vice president has received is that he has not spent enough time in this state. Is the campaign worried about that?
Acknowledged it himself, Rena, saying, I will be here often, don't worry. He explained that he wasn't here on Sunday for a major event that brought 19 other contenders to Cedar Rapids because he had a commitment with his granddaughter's high school graduation and his daughter's birthday. And he said that those were more critical family commitments that he wanted to keep. But I think he and his team are looking at this as a long marathon, and that they'll have plenty of other opportunities to be here over the summer to talk to voters, as you see him doing right now. We're here at what's called the Bridgeview Center in Ottumwa, Iowa, along the river, and we're waiting to see if perhaps we can catch the former vice president and have him say hello to us on his way out the door. Earlier, and I think, Rita, we were going to allude to this, I might as well just talk about it. He was interrupted at the start of his remarks by a gentleman who told us before the event began, unbeknownst to us, that he would interrupt Biden, that he's from Memphis, Tennessee, and is concerned about the shift in position that the vice president made last week, where he said he no longer supports what's called the Hyde Amendment, or the ban on federal Medicaid money being used for abortion services. That puts him more in line with other Democratic contenders, but puts him at odds with people who maybe held the same position he did, which is that he's personally opposed to abortion, but didn't want to impose it on other people. So he said, Biden did to this gentleman, that they would talk after the event, and we'll see if that happens. But, a sign of the kind of raw politics that can happen in this early caucus state. And there were people in the crowd who obviously tried to shout that heckler down and get him to sit down, and he eventually left the event.
I know it's loud there, Ed. I just want to make it clear to our viewers, you had a chance to actually speak, is my understanding, to that heckler, and you were saying that heckler was very concerned about the Hyde Amendment, which restricts federal funding to most abortions. How is that issue playing out in Iowa when the president, he made a reversal? At one point a few weeks ago, he said he was in support of the Hyde Amendment, banning federal money for most abortions, and then he reversed course. Is that flip-flop affecting him at all with the credibility of Iowa voters?
Not necessarily. While that was a pretty high-profile call-out or clapback, I spoke with some other people in line, especially women, who said that they appreciated that the vice president understood that perhaps positions on this issue had to shift a little bit, given the times and given the ongoing changes in abortion policy in some states across the country. So we'll see. It's just he's been here but hours, as have we, frankly, and so we'll spend the next few days trying to assess that. Again, as we watch the vice president here in Ottumwa, Iowa, talk to voters along the rope line. This is what contenders are doing every day when they're here. They speak for a few minutes, but they also understand the value of this interaction here, this intimate one-on-one opportunity for people to ask them a question, get a photo, maybe tell them a story, or ask something specific that wasn't alluded to or addressed during the opening remarks. And in this case for Biden, it very well could be that these are people who remember his 1988 campaign, or perhaps his 2008 campaign, or the work he did for the President Obama in 2012, running for re-election here. We'll see. But this kind of exchange right here that you're seeing is what many campaigns here in Iowa tell you is the most valuable moment of a candidate's day.
Yeah.
He's directly speaking one-on-one with voters.
It certainly is, and these Iowa voters count on that. Shaking your hand, meeting you at these events, it's very important to them. They'll tell you this over and over again. How does, one of the criticisms, as I mentioned earlier, was that he has not spent enough time in this state. How do the other Democratic contenders compare, Ed, the ones maybe polling at the top, with their Iowa strategy versus Joe Biden's at this point?
Well, in conversations with people in the last few days, Rena, the name that gets a lot of credit here is Elizabeth Warren, somebody who has built out a robust operation with dozens of staffers on the ground and a real, we're told, sort of studied, methodical understanding of how to win an Iowa campaign. The other that has built out an operation here, obviously Bernie Sanders, because he had that back in 2016, and Cory Booker, the New Jersey senator, who doesn't necessarily poll well here or anywhere else, but who nonetheless is building an impressive operation. You notice that the vice president stepped out of our sight line a little bit, so our cameraman is going to try to get a higher angle. Stay with us, and we'll see if what he says here to folks as they continue to talk. There's that large, I don't know if you can see that scoreboard that was set up outside the event. The folks from Greenpeace are here trolling the former vice president with their scorecard on climate policy. I think Biden ranks 5th in their listing of candidates when it comes to issues of fossil fuels and the Green New Deal and climate policy overall. But again, we see him here talking to voters one-on-one. This is how it works. This is how they know they have to campaign in a state like this. And Biden made clear that he will do this today, tomorrow, and in the weeks to come. He has 2 more events today here in Iowa, and then 1 more tomorrow in far eastern Iowa before moving on to other states.
Our writer Ed O'Keefe coming to us with Joe Biden at an event in Iowa. We will be covering Joe Biden throughout the day, as well as President Trump. Both men have events in Iowa today. Ed, thank you very much for joining us.